Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 7. And this will be my ending explained video for The Flash Season 7, Episode 4, titled Central City Strong. So, yeah, yesterday's episode of The Flash marks the debut of graphic novel number 3, which is obviously the start of the original Season 7 storyline. And it was a really good episode. We have so many great stuff going down. We obviously had the return of Abracadabra, in which he made a couple of different future references, which I'll be talking about during this video. We had such great character development story arcs with Iris during this episode. It was probably like my strongest part of this episode. But we also got our first look of one of the forces and one of the villains who has been affected by a force, and that is obviously the Strength Force. And also we had that ending scene with Caitlin, all of which will be discussed during this video. But also, guys, I have done a review and breakdown for episode 4. If you guys want to check that out, I will link it in the description down below, or it will be at the top right hand corner. If you guys could see the card right now, it will be over there. But before I go over anything, however, you guys don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so firstly I will go over the many Abracadabra future teases and references that were given during the episode. So firstly we had the name drop of Cisco's new codename, that of Mecha Vibe. Now this is pretty much Cisco's new vibe alias and his new form, because when he used to have his powers, he was just simply known as Vibe because he was just a metahuman. But now, the way Cisco is able to do the things that he was able to do as Vibe is by his tech and all the mechanics over there. So he is not a metahuman, he's still human, but due to his tech, he's able to do the Vibe Blast, which he was able to do back when he was Vibe. So this leads to him becoming Mecha Vibe. I think that's where the idea comes from. Now, another future teaser and reference is that of Chronarch. And over here, after Abracadabra does his magic and gets Barry into meta cuffs, Kadabra says the following: "I'll be doing you a favor by killing you now, Flash. This way, you won't have to face the wrath of Chronarch." Now, this was a very interesting teaser because last time Kadabra name dropped something, that thing that he name dropped ended up becoming the main antagonist for the next season, in which during season 3, Kadabra mentioned Clifford DeVoe, and Clifford DeVoe, aka the Thinker, ended up being our main villain for The Flash Season 4. So it is highly likely that we could kind of get the same treatment, and this teaser is to set up Chronarch being the main antagonist for Season 8, or it could just be like that one-time Red Death reference where they just mention them and then they just don't explore it, they just leave it like that as like a cool reference for the fans. Now, I'll be honest, I had no idea who Chronarch was. But thanks to some Google search, let's just say I may have found some interesting stuff. So in the comics, the Chronarch are basically the rulers of the 64th century, the timeline where Abracadabra is from. They pretty much ran things strictly, and this didn't sit too well with Kadabra. Therefore, he was able to use his Abracadabra powers to rebel against the Chronarch, and he's basically proving himself to being a deadly adversary. The result to this was his banishment to the 20th century. So he's stuck in the 20th century, he's no longer in the 64th century, this results him into crossing paths with many characters from the past, such as the Flash, for example. Now, the fact that Barry isn't even from the 64th century and Kadabra still warns Barry about it does show that Barry must have done something that alerts the Chronarch about something, because Kadabra says, "I'll be doing you a favor by killing you now, Flash. This way, you won't have to face the wrath of Chronarch." And the thing about this is, this was directly said to Barry himself. So the fact that Kadabra was considering to kill the Flash showed that the Chronarch are incredibly feared by Kadabra, and they had plans to go after Barry for a reason, because as I said before, that statement which he said was directly directed to Barry himself. And this reason we obviously don't know what it is. It could be something crisis related, where they find out that the timeline is all screwed up due to crisis. It could be something to do with the forces, but what I think it could be is that they're going after Barry due to his obsession with the future. So if you guys would remember during the episode when the Flash was confronting Abracadabra, Kadabra mentions that the future Flash becomes obsessed with the future. So this could potentially lead into the start of this during the Flash season 7, where he's concerned about what the future is like, and Barry begins to study the future and maybe even time travels to different points in the future at some point. And maybe he comes across the Chronarch, in which he would find out that these strict rules are not for the people. It's not great, and Barry maybe could be, trying to prevent the formation of the Chronarch from happening, something like that. I'm not really sure. And somehow the Chronarch finds out about that, that they need to terminate the Flash because of that, because if they just let the Flash do their thing, then the Chronarch would cease to exist. That's how it could be. That would be my theory. But again, it could also be something related to the timeline where Barry screws up again and the Chronarch are aware of that, and then they just want to stop the Flash. I'm not entirely sure. Now, the thing about the Chronarch are they aren't really a Flash villain. They're just, a villain, if you want to say, connected to Abracadabra. So it's not great to have Chronarch as a villain. I wouldn't like to see that, if I'm being honest. Now, in the next ending scene, we have Powerhouse. Now, Powerhouse obviously came into play during the episode. Now, this giant, who I'm assuming to be Powerhouse, is the user of one of the 4 forces, in which she is using the Strength Force. So we have 4 forces in total. The Red Lightning being the Strength Force, the Sage Force being the blue one, and we will explore the Sage Force next week with Psyche. And we have the Green Lightning, which is the Still Force, and we will be exploring that going into the first couple of episodes of this original season 7 storyline. And then we obviously have the Speed Force, which is the Yellow Lightning, and obviously it is used by all of the speedsters which we have seen on the show. And could we see Godspeed be connected to this Force storyline, and Godspeed is the one that gets struck by the Speed Force lightning when the lightning obviously goes across Central City? Who knows? For now, we will just have to wait and see. Now, the Strength Force pretty much revolves around land, gravity, density, and mass shifting, all of which is centered around the force of motion. Now, through it, the user can change their relativity in relation to its strength output. So they could alter parts of themselves to whatever they desire to make a certain part stronger, but as a result, makes another area weaker. So let's say Powerhouse wanted to make her arms stronger, so she could do that and she increases the size of her arms, but that would result into her, let's say, legs becoming weaker. That's what happens. Now, the Strength Force grants its conduits powers by striking them from below the Earth's surface and imbuing them with its energy. So that is where the earthquakes appear during the episode, is because, that's the source where Powerhouse gets their powers from, just like the source where Barry gets his speed from. He gets his speed from the Speed Force. And as I said, that is how Alexa was able to transfer her different body parts to look like a giant. She has the ability to do that, and she could turn her body back to normal as well. She's pretty much the Hulk, if you will. So throughout graphic novel number 3, we will be finding out that the Speed Force is not the only cosmic force out there in the multiverse, but there are 3 more. So we will be facing off these different antagonists with these different forces. Now, as I said, Godspeed has not been seen on set at all, filming in graphic novel number 3. So this leads me to believe that we will be exploring the Sage, Strength, and Still Force for graphic novel number 3, and we will have a main villain directly connected to that storyline. But then for the second half of the season, so from episode 12 to episode 18, we will have Godspeed alone as the big bad. That's what I'm thinking will happen. But yeah, the main storylines so far for graphic novel number 3 are the forces. So that is from episode 4 to episode 11. Now, what will happen by the end of this force storyline and how will they handle it? I have no idea because we obviously haven't seen it yet. But what I'm thinking is during episode 11, which is the end of graphic novel number 3, will we get all these, force users facing off the Flash and Team Flash? Or will we get a big bad related to all of these forces, and maybe this big bad wants to take control of all the forces or wants to destroy them or something like that. This will result into all the force users teaming up facing off that one big bad, so we could have the strength force, the sage force, the still force users all teaming up with Barry, who is obviously the user of the speed force. That would be something pretty cool to see. But as the actual ending scene of the episode, we have Caitlin asking help from Cisco, in which we end up seeing both Frost as well as Caitlin being separate entities. So clearly over here they will set up a storyline for the two where they live their own separate lives, if that makes sense, and they no longer live in that one body. So we will have Caitlin still being Caitlin, but maybe this is where we start to get Frost become a villain again like she used to back in season 3. She goes back to those days, and then that would explain how she gets arrested later on in the season, as episode 8 I think is called. It's titled The Trial of Killer Frost, something along those lines. I don't have it right in front of me right now, so I don't exactly remember, but it's something along those lines. That's what the episode is called. But yeah, I'm guessing that Frost will go back to her villainous path, and Caitlin will still remain normal as she is. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys think about all of this. Are you guys excited to see more of these force users? And what do you guys think will happen with Frost? I'm interested to see your thoughts towards all of this. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.